Welcome to Closing Conversations, a show for founders, leaders, and sellers who win together. I'm Max Notis. Today, we're talking about the modern go-to-market stack, what's changed, what still works, and how to build demand that compounds. My guest is Casie Gillette, the Senior Director of Member and Sponsor Marketing at The Suite, and a veteran of B2B demand gen, SEO, and content, who's helped teams go from spray and pray to precise, repeatable growth. We get into the shift from broad awareness to true contact level targeting, why alignment beats attribution every time, how to publish the specifics buyers can't just Google, and the real role of community, dinners, networks, and relationships that outlast any single campaign. Let's get into it. Why don't you tell me about yourself, and then we'll rock through everything. Yeah, welcome aboard. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, well, we talked a little bit when we first met, but I was excited about this podcast when we first spoke because I thought, well, I think I said to you, like, did you reach out to the right person? Because, I'm a marketer and this is more of a sales podcast, but what I thought was really interesting, and, because my background is marketing, I started at an SEO agency in 2004, 2005. Digital marketing was really my background. I went in-house, worked at a startup, and that's where I sort of got my first taste of sales and how marketing and sales work together. And then, back to an agency and then back in-house. But when we started speaking, I thought, oh gosh, yeah. Like marketing and sales are so intertwined that we have a lot we can talk about. And so, being back in-house now, especially, and working closely with our sales team, even at my last in-house role, working so closely with the sales team, I mean, marketing sales should be aligned. We should be working together. We should be talking on the same podcast and listening to the same podcast. So, I thought that really made a lot of sense. So I'm psyched to be on it. I'm psyched to be here talking to you.
1,000%. I mean, listen, every organization I've seen that's had a successful marketing and sales partnership, which is really what it is, there's one leader overseeing both. So there's not two leaders with two goals that are mostly aligned, but not entirely. And then sales is saying marketing leads suck, and marketing saying the sellers can't close. You've never had an organization where they're selling like hotcakes and marketing is doing a terrible job. You never have an organization where marketing is killing it and sales is because they really do go hand in hand. And when it's working well, you're optimizing for each side. Sales knows what's the rhetoric is, what's being said out there to receive conversations better. Marketing knows what sales is saying so they can kind of funnel and pop them over better. And it's one of those, if neither wins, if one of them don't. So I wholeheartedly agree. Both of them have the same goal, which is more revenue, more awareness, a positive brand for the organization.
Yeah. And I think too, one thing I've learned, it did feel like, and hopefully I'm correct in saying this and other people feel this way, but I do feel like marketing and sales, 20 years ago when I started, it was very siloed. I don't think marketing and sales worked as closely as they do today. And I think that has a lot to do with the technology and digital and our CRM solutions and all the things we have that now play together. But I do feel as if there has been this change of not tone, but this change in thinking of we really do need to be working together. And that wasn't always there.
And I'll tell you this, I've noticed a difference in the marketing professionals that I've worked with. And I think it may be largely in part to this, where I think the less successful marketers that I see today will go to a company and say, this is what we're going to do. This is the plan. And the better marketers that I see go in and say, we got to figure this out. We don't know what's going to work. And there's a humility to that. There's an adaptability to that. And even mentally, when you walk in and say, this is what we're going to do, if it doesn't work, there's a hard ego hit. There's a hard thing to stomach. Whereas just like sales, we're going to try out different pitches and playbook and objection handling and different materials that we're sharing. And if you do that, the marketing really is an extension of sales as opposed to some arbitrary, voice of the company.
Yeah, I completely agree. Because I remember, and sorry, again, feel free to take this in any direction. But I was going to say, where I'm going with this is, my first in-house job was a startup, and they were a pretty advanced startup. They weren't, brand new. And I give so much credit to the founders who one was a marketing guy and one was an engineer, a product guy. But what they did and had us doing, and again, this was in 2009, was we marketing, customer support, and sales would meet once a week as a team to talk through like what are the things we're seeing, what are the questions people are asking, what are the complaints people are coming in with, what does sales need, what does support need, what does marketing need. And that was something, and again, I had come from an agency, so I hadn't seen that, but I thought, oh wow, like this is fantastic. And then even working with clients on the agency side, like seeing how segregated marketing and sales were, it felt so novel, right? That here we have all this information because as a marketer, it's so much guess, like you're using your best guesses. Where sales is on the phone, support is on the phone, they're genuinely talking to people. And so much of that information doesn't get back to marketers. And so it was like this silly revelation of like, why isn't everybody doing this? Why aren't we all doing these meetings and talking to each other?
That's a super interesting point. I think you're right. It probably stemmed from the technology, from a CRM where, a marketing campaign not long ago, it would take months for you to understand the success or the lack thereof. And same with sales to CS, whereas now it's very linear. It's very easy to say, we put this out and this is not only what was able to sell, but was able to close, and I think there's such a loop there of, can you do what you say you're going to do between sales to CS? Does this actually do what I saw as advertised? Was that communicated properly? So I want to ask you something, Casie. So, I mean, you've been at agencies, you've been at companies themselves, in-house, and so much has changed, whether it be the wild emergence of digital and you're stepping into an SEO agency not long ago, through COVID, through all these things. And I feel like right now, this is the sales world included, everyone's trying to figure out what works now. Before the pandemic, even in sales, you'd have these big enablement companies that say, this is how you're going to pitch. And every company would roll these things out. Now I think it's a problem because everyone pitches the same. But on the other side, demand gen. I've seen so many companies struggle with this. How, like, sellers trying to get new meetings in and the company trying to drive more meetings. And like we're saying, we don't know. So there is a lot of figuring out. What are you seeing working today? And what are you seeing that's just not clicking with audiences?
Look, I came up in the time where SEO was like the thing, right? Because there was this, everyone was looking for things. And, Google was still new. Like when I started, you were using 20 different, browsers like that no longer exist. And Google was one of those 20 that I remember reporting on. And where I'm going with this is that people used to not have every piece of information they needed at their fingertips. And as marketers and salespeople, like I think we are so used to thinking like, oh my God, we have to get them all that. We have to make sure they have all this information. Like, and the reality is like, they can go find that now. I mean, even years ago, it was something like 70% of people have already done all their research before they reach out to a company. I am positive that that number is much bigger now. So now I think it's better trying to understand like where people are in the funnel, making sure that yes, you do have that content, but you're not force feeding it to them. And two, like, I brought the SEO piece up because like, the content side, we spent years and years and years building all this content and a lot of junk content. And so again, this goes back to where I'm saying like, marketers working with sales and even talking to CS, like, what are the questions that people have that aren't general? What are the questions that they are specifically asking? Because people can go find those general questions, right? That's how, like, when you think about SEO, like people would go search those general questions about maybe the industry of the product. And you had content on your site that would bring them there and they would learn about you because they were looking for this general piece of information. Well, now they get that general information without even leaving GPT or Google or wherever they are. So you now have to figure out what is the information that they can't just get from these broader sources. And so again, that's where I think like that content side of things becomes really important in talking to what are these specific questions? What are these specific needs? Can you make sure like you have ROI decks like that are available, that you have things like that aren't just with the sales team and being hidden, that marketers can talk about. The other thing that I actually think is really cool and is that you can get so much more targeted in your audience. So we went from years and years ago, being able to see who was on your site, like by the customer, right? Like you could see their IP address, you could see who they were. That was 20 years ago. That got taken away. Then it was very like, okay, well, we're trying to do ABM, but the reality is our ABM is this company, and we're hoping we target the right person who's at that company. And we think maybe it's them based on the time. But now there's actually technology that will tell you like who is visiting your website and like what pages are they on and what are they interested in. You have solutions like Clay who can pull you these really great lists that you can then do your ads based on. So like I think there's a huge play, especially in the B2B space, for that very like true ABM, almost more like contact based marketing that you can do now that we couldn't do before. So, and again, I was so long winded, but like I get so excited about it because it's just so different. And I feel like this has been the last like 5 years has been the biggest change in digital and in marketing that I have seen since I started 20 years ago. I really do feel that way.
Wow. So you hit on a couple interesting things, two really big things. On one side, there's almost a technical component of who are you able to target, and the other side is kind of more of a creative component of what are you saying. And I feel like the technical piece is something that I could be wrong. I don't know this as well as you do, but I don't know that that was such a necessary skill set not very long ago, where, take an agency, you're working with a client, they have relationships with out of home and television. Like there's kind of like a standard playbook that shifts depending on your audience. Whereas now you can be so nuanced. And I think the audience expects you to be so nuanced. Like I've sent a lot of sales emails in my life, and there was a lot where I'd send it and sometimes it would get to the wrong person. I'm like, I don't really care. Like, big deal. Whereas I'll tell you now, I'll get a message from someone where they had the totally wrong company or something like that, and it actually pisses me off. It's like it's really sloppy, it's really stupid, and that never used to bother me. That used to be something I really, really didn't quite care about. And I guess you can really get in front of the right people, and with that tech, you can be, from a dollars and cents perspective, be really efficient, like really fucking hyper efficient on what you're doing, as opposed to having like a 20 to 80% like miss, but it proved valuable because you hit the person. Now, on the other side, I just wanted to say, I think it's fascinating, the difference in content that you have to put out. And I've seen this even in my world, in the little marketing that I do, where there's someone who I work with, and I'll say, oh, I'm going to put this out from a case study. We improved the company's close rate by 2x within a month. And he's like, nobody cares. And I'm like, what do you mean? He cares. He says, they care how you do it. They care specifically what made that. And when I'll say in a post or something, or in whatever I'm putting out, they were taking 10 minutes of small talk on every call with a potential client. Now they get the fuck to it because it makes the client feel like you're trying to butter them up. And that value makes people say, this company knows what they're doing. They've got a stance. They're sharing the magic sauce because they know they can implement it. Whereas, exactly as you're saying, if I'm getting the same thing from a Google search that I am from your ad, from your sales pitch, you've already bored me. You've already kind of showed me you don't have much that you're working with.
Yeah. And I think what also is cool on that note of, like it's like the personalization, but it's a step beyond personalization, is like understanding your ICP. I think we used to have a little more leeway to exactly your point. Because I do the same thing. Like I get an email and it's like, it doesn't have my name spelled right, and it might even be right, but maybe it has my position wrong. And I'm like, this is lazy, right? This is lazy because I know you could go, but there is this technology now. And even for sales teams, like, at my last company, I thought, our sales leader did a really nice job of saying like, okay, this is our ICP. And we did so much data analysis around who are our most successful customers, not just who were our customers, who had the highest LTV, what were their feet, like what made them, like what were the commonalities there. And so it also helped our sales team and our marketing team by knowing that information, because the sales team is no longer wasting time reaching out to people who just weren't a fit, right? So now it's like, okay, it narrows your list, and sure, maybe it narrows your TAM, but at least you know your time is being spent and you're prioritizing it on people who are more likely to be successful. And I think that is a big difference as well. And the technology and the ability to target there is a huge pro for companies.
You can also, let's say I know exactly who I'm hitting at a company. I can get more ads in front of that person for my spend, as opposed to, all right, I can get one hit per person, hoping we're hitting the right. You can dominate them. You can be in their face when they're on Instagram in the bathroom. You can be in their face when when they're sitting down to LinkedIn to do. You could be like from Ted Lasso with Roy Kent, like be here, be there, be every fucking where. And I think you could really do that to a degree now.
You can. We actually, so my organization now is called The Suite. And so what's really cool about this organization, it's unlike anything I've ever done because it's not a product, right? We're not selling a product. And it's an executive network. And we have a legal executive network, we have a financial executive network, and we're growing like a CEO network. And we do have a platform. So there is a product, but what you're not selling that product. And so, but what makes it so cool to me is it is such a specific audience. And so we are able to do really targeted advertising, and we do a lot on LinkedIn. And so, I see all the applications that come in because people have to apply to be in the network. And one of the things we ask is, do you know someone in the suite? And the person said, well, I must because I see your name on LinkedIn all the time. And I thought, yes, we did it. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. And it didn't annoy them, right? They still came. So it was just the right amount.
Tell me more about the network. Like what's your focus? What are you folks doing? Because it is a really cool model where every customer acquisition leads to more as well.
Well, what I love, I mean, again, I've only ever worked on like I've worked it for software and technology, really. Even at the agency, we were a B2B agency. And so that was always my primary focus, like was working with software and technology. And as fun as it can be, it's never the sexiest, right? And like taking this role. So going back, like I mentioned, we have the L suite, which is a suite for the legal community. And so it's general counsels, associate counsel. It's basically senior legal leaders. And within the F suite too, which is for CFOs, we have events, we have a community platform. There's different groups that people can, there's dinners and social events and then big conferences. And then again, like we have documents that people share, right? So like someone will say, hey, does anyone have an outline or something already created for this? And people can share it. We do like continuing education courses on demand. So all of this is included in your membership. So essentially what you're selling are the people, right? And what I mean by that is you're not selling the product, you're selling this community of peers.
Well, the value is the network. The better people you have in the network, the more valuable it is.
Exactly. And what's so cool about it is that people who are in it love it. And what as marketers and salespeople, like all we want is other people to be telling others about us, right? We know referrals are like one of the best places to get sales from. It's so hard to do that. No one's talking about their CRM tools to their friends, right? But this is so different because it's a community. People are talking to their friends and their peers about the network that they're in. Like I see people posting, like, went to this event last night, from the L suite. It was, and that we can promote that, which is just something I've never been able to do.
I ask, like, how do you guys monetize? Is it through membership fees? Are there sponsorships?
Yeah. So there's a membership fee. So you pay a membership fee but again, it's invite only in the sense that like it's a very specific demographic, right? Like you have to be a senior, whatever, either legal or finance leader. It's in-house. So like for legal, for example, like it's not law firms. And what I think is really cool is like, if you're a part of a community, a lot of times, like you still have to pay to go to events. You don't have to do that. So like your events are included, the platform is included. The on-demand courses are included. Like that's one thing, like they're basically like, if you take 2 of these courses, it's already paid for itself. But we do also have sponsors. But again, and I'm not trying to sell this, like this is even like the audience, but like what I think is cool because it's so different is that even for sponsors, like you go to a conference and like the sponsors are kind of in your face, right? And like maybe you go to an event where like the sponsors are guaranteed 10 sales meetings. The sponsors are the people who get up and speak first. It's not like that. Like we don't give our sponsors lists. They're not allowed to like directly sell So for the members, and why I talk about that, because I think it's really cool for the members, it's like you really just get to enjoy being a member and like talking to your peers. And yes, there are sponsors and like you get like a product discount or whatever it might be, but like they're not in your face about it.
I'm going to say, it sounds like then the big draw for them is, again, the value of your network is the value of the people is the value of the network. So for them to be a sponsor, it's good brand recognition. It's good to be in that room with all that people and have your logos.
Yeah, and like again, like on our member platform, people will ask like, does anyone have a recommendation for an ERP tool? And like we have a couple ERP sponsors now. They don't jump in, but they have people who, they've given the discount and they have people who got the discount. So they use the tool. So now they're jumping in to say, well, we use this. So there's benefits in that sense because it's all the vendor recommendations is a huge thing that happens.
And that's, I feel like, at other events, for example, you sponsor the event, you're expecting the speaking engagement, you're expecting the meetings. And I think that could be just kind of in the nature of it where anybody's fucking there. Like there's everybody and it doesn't matter. You don't really have a subjective pulse on the quality of the attendee as per, your target audience. So you need to be given those things to make sure you're hitting it. Whereas this network is really targeted, really carefully curated. So if I'm sponsoring it, I know that I'm hitting the right people.
Yeah, that's a big piece of it too. And what the sales teams do with it, I don't know, but
Well, you guys do have a sales team.
oh, sorry, I meant like the sponsor sales teams. We do. Well, we do sort of. We have two BDs. So again, this goes to like how we work with them. We work with them. It's all under our CMO. And so we work extremely closely with them. Like I have like some flows, like some email flows going, right? And so one of our BDs is like, oh, hey, like this person responded and like they couldn't see this. Like this is like a small thing, right? Like there was an error in this. Like I wouldn't know that, but like our BD knew that. Or like, hey, I tried, like one of the things he just did recently was like, hey, I've started saying this to people. Maybe we can add it into the flow, right? That's an immediate thing that I can take action on. Another thing of that is like we get like our members, our CS team, I guess you could call them. It's like member experience team. They've started like getting like testimonials from people. Like they have people who like write them nice emails. Like that comes to me that we can use for our ads, for our emails, like all of that the sales team can know about. We have like a deck that MX uses when they onboard people that the sales team also can provide people that says like, here's what everything is and here's the value. And so again, it's just all intertwined, which is just nice.
I mean, you're getting direct feed, like companies pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get this shit from a survey, whereas you have people on the ground. It's really smart. I think a lot of companies don't use their BDRs in that capacity at all, whereas they're hearing they're on the street, they're hearing what everybody's saying. That's a really interesting point. I want to actually circle back to something because you folks have BDRs, and I'm sure that they're working with lots of varied sales technologies. You'd mentioned Clay before as well. Now, this is even for my education because I don't know. I've used Clay in my life as a salesperson going outbound and emailing people. How are you using it? And I feel like this sounds like a stupid question, but I'm actually, how do you use it in marketing? Like what's your primary use case?
Kind of the same thing, right? So there's a couple different ways. So one, we can use it to build lists for our demand gen ads, right? So we can use it to build lists for ads. So some of our BDs, there is some cold outreach. Again, they're building lists from that. But I think one thing that's interesting is because again, our ICP is very specific, like being able to get titles and company revenue and company size, like that's part of our evaluation is company size, is how many employees they have, all of that. And so Clay gives us a lot of that information that we can vet both on the marketing side for our lists and the sales side, because again, it just ties to who we are targeting, right? Like just making sure we're not wasting our time on wrong priorities.
So how does that compare in both accuracy and cost to like a Zoom Info or something like that?
Yeah, so at my old organization, we did a lot with Zoom Info, and then we actually ended up switching to Clay. I think both from a monetary perspective, but also an accuracy perspective. And again, don't get me wrong, like our BDs have said like, Clay can get it wrong, but I think they all can get it wrong. what I think is cool is going back to, some of the stuff we were talking about with like making sure you're giving them the right content is like Clay allows you to integrate so many different things from like your own site, from that, right? Like I remember one of the things I took like their Clay cohort class, to learn how to use it a little better. And like one of the things is like you can create an email that pulls in the person's like LinkedIn that says, "Oh, I saw you were talking about this," right? Or like, that's crazy. Like that is a really great way to reach someone on even if it's, I know people know that it's a sales email still, but at least it stops you in your tracks to read it.
Well, I'll tell you this hot take. I think Clay ruined the outbound email. I think it killed email as a sales channel. I think that
Do you think people ignore it?
prior to the pandemic, I used to just grab 400 email addresses, put them in outreach, like a wood chipper, send it out with first name personalized, company personalized. And I knew from that it would book 5 demos a week. That's pretty good. And I didn't have to do anything. And then as people got keen to that, you had to be really more personalized in your email. And I've been in roles where a good day is I'm writing 15 emails, 15 really personalized, where I'm saying, I saw you went to this school. So did my sister. And I loved what you said about this. And in that world, generally the best email won. The more personalized you could be, the more obvious it was that you were a human writing to this person for a reason. Generally, right? I think timing has to do with a lot of these things, whatever. Now I can write those 400 emails a week again with Clay, and I don't know who the hell I'm sending them to. It's the same quality. There's no difference. And I think the recipients of those emails have gotten clever to this. Like, listen, when ChatGPT came out and became a thing, the first thought every seller had was, this is going to write my emails for me. Like, it was the first thought. Or, a quarterly report comes out. I remember I was targeting Canon USA. Their quarterly review comes out. It's 90 pages long. I don't have to read it ever again. And it'll tell me who to reach out to, what exactly to say, click of a button. And that target at Canon is getting emails from me and 700 other salespeople, all hyper personalized. So I think with that, you get an email, you don't know the person, you're pretty much like, I'm done. Like I'm not even looking into. I want to is this something really critical to my life? Like, even did I miss a bill? Like, is this someone I know? Is this a prospect of, like, other than that, I'm not even looking at you.
Oh my God, I love this.
I think with that, cold calling became much more powerful because I'm sure there is AI that can make a cold call, but it's not as prevalent today. Whereas like the goal of any prospecting is, I'm a human. I'm calling you for a reason. I've looked you up and I already know why it would make sense for us to talk. And I think cold calling, once I have you on the phone, you're already on the phone. I'm not negotiating with you to talk on the phone. I can be, once I'm on, I can be powerful. I can be effective. 2, because it's the hardest to do, it's the least competitive channel. So it's not only the most effective, but the least amount of people are doing it. And I think LinkedIn messages have become what emails were 2-3 years ago, where it's at this point, it's mostly spam, but every once in a while there's something relevant. So I read them to screen them out, but I'll catch things once in a while. Email, I think that Clay and the like, they ruined it. And that's not a bad thing. Like, I think that's how the world goes. Like, things get better and then we keep getting, more and more efficient, whatever. But, just going back to the marketing piece, even I can find so fast where you went to school, what you talked about on LinkedIn, blah, 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 blah. To be able to market that to me, I think is way, way, way powerful. Where if that ad that I'm seeing as I'm scrolling is so pertinent and personal to me, what the message says, like what it's talking about, whoa, that's a different deal because that's there anyway. I have to see that in email.
See, what I was going to say, though, what I think makes it cool is, again, going back to this idea of getting down to your target ICP, you're able to create these specific emails, right, that are personalized. But I still think there has to be a component of humanity. So, like you, like the salesperson or the marketing person, like, how are you tying a value to that? So it's not just, I saw you talking about this, but maybe it's, I saw you talking about this and here's something that talks about that, right? Or like,
But can't Clay do that?
it can, but if you have materials that aren't public, right? Like if you have things like that you want, like if you have like sales materials or you have a report. So like for example, we have this, it's called like a compensation report. And it is very comprehensive. You have to be a member to get it. In our sales flow, I will give you a sample of it, right? And then it's, hey, you have to, you have to become a member to get the full report, but here's part of it. But if I can go and find something they were talking about or they were asking about, or someone they know is asking about compensation, or it's in their net, right? Like being able to then tie that, I think is really powerful. But again, like some of that is also manual. So that's the other piece of this, is that it's not just automated.
You can set if this topic comes up like the flag, and then I can put it in. It still allows me to send it in mass. And then I think the question prior to that is the person reading it anyway. I can spend that time, and if they read, I saw you went to Brandeis University. Cool. We here at this company.
Well, don't write stupid emails. Write better emails with that information. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's like John Henry versus the machine when it comes to emails. Again, if the goal is to be personal, what's more personal than talking to you? I don't know. And I'm reacting to this from what I've heard people are seeing and just the way I receive emails these days.
I mean, I also don't answer my phone. So that's what, when you talk about like I'm like, if I don't have a landline, I don't work at an office. We are a remote company. So there is not a way for you to call me at my work, right? So if I see a number come up on my personal cell phone that I don't know, I'm not answering that. So again, like you look at it from your own experience, I guess, right?
Which is subjective, right? Like,
I don't disagree with you. Like I can't tell you how many emails I ignore, but I do think there's this value in that personalization element if you add the humanity to it. And that's the marketer in me that's like, just take it to that next step, right? It's not, I saw you went to Brandeis, but it's like, how do you tie that to something that is actually interesting, that actually captures attention?
yeah, listen, the Brandeis line is a cheap win. You're gonna get that on me. Like, I love my school. Like, it's going to work.
People are like, I see you at Mariana. I'm like, and
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, awesome. Yeah. Love it. But so I want to tease this off of you because I think this is an interesting conversation. When it comes to cold calling, which I'm very bullish on. I'm not shy about that. There are limitations, like you're saying, for example, like the phone carrier and providers are much better at screening calls these days, and you have to almost like domain health with emails. You've got to there's like some sort of a similar record where if I make a lot of calls to people and they reject, it's going to start labeling me as spam. And then I can make 100 calls in a day, but only 20 of them, 40 of them will actually go to the person. And what I have told salespeople to do, this is what I've been preaching today, is call the person once. And if they don't answer, don't leave a voicemail. Call them back in an hour to 3 hours, because this is, again, only drawing from my experience, which is subjective and can very well be flawed. But if I see that same number call me back shortly after, my thinking is, could this be something? Like, did I forget something? And then I answer, and it's you, the salesperson, and I might not be thrilled to hear it, but you're there.
but I answered and now I'm stuck.
You have me on the phone. And listen, it's up to then the salesperson to play that well, to engage in that. But I don't know. And so that's what I've been to try to get around that. It's a number I don't know. You're trying to trick people, essentially.
Well, one interesting thing too is like, from some of the things like from what that we get to do. And again, this is why like I love it not being on like the product side, is because like a lot of our cold outreach is like inviting someone to an event, right? Like come try the event. You've never been to that. Like you're in this area where come try it out, see if you like it. Right. Or like, hey, we have this thing. It's just a give, right? Like I love that. Not everyone gets to do that.
Well, we haven't talked about that at all. We've been talking about now is like very direct, cold, trying to get you. It's like very much the numbers game. And even as I'm saying this, I'm thinking, well, if I can get 10% of people to pick up, then I can coach the salespeople to get 50% of those people to talk. And now this is repeatable. This is something that we can build upon. The network effect, I think, is phenomenal. I think there could be a genuineness to it. I think that it gets your message out there really well. It's almost like a cool asking you to engage. I'm not saying let's go right now. It's, hey, if you're interested. And when I see that enough and enough, your brand looks stable to me. It looks inviting. I know what you're about. And then it becomes very approachable. Like someone put it this well to me, like if you're going cold direct, email, phone, it's like those are strawberries and they can go, it's all about timing. Whereas if you're working the network, playing the long game, it's like preserves. And these are people you're going to engage with and they're going to last forever. And now as long as they keep seeing that name over however long, if that ever comes up in their lifetime, they go, I know a company. And now that's going to pay dividends and dividends and dividends. But it's like the long game versus the short game. And I think you kind of need both.
I think that's such a good point. And just going back to like the software side of things or like products, I think about it from a personal perspective. So I used to speak at a lot of conferences in the digital marketing space. And so you see a lot of the same vendors like sponsoring conferences, but there might be a new one that comes in. And so they might reach out to you being like, hey, I saw you're going to be at this event. I saw you're speaking at this event. Like, hey, we'd love to talk, right? Well, I'm like, okay, like that doesn't really interest me. Or it's like, hey, we're hosting this dinner. We'd love for you to join. Now, I might not become a customer, but I can tell you there were a couple different vendors that over the course of time, so talking about the long game, that I became customers of because the more I didn't need them at that point, right? But the more I saw them, the more I was exposed to them, the more like personal relationship I built with them. You bet when I needed that software, they were the people that I went to.
God, the guy who's helping me with marketing has been telling me to throw dinners. And I've been like, I don't know, it sounds like a lot of work. And I feel like he's going to hear this and be like,
it is so like at my last company, we target like our ICP was like e-commerce companies. And so that was like a switch while I was there. And so I had to learn, I didn't know much about the e-com space. So as I start digging into it, we start talking to a lot of these like bigger e-com marketing companies. We start talking to a lot of these like even just other tools who are big in the e-com space, dinners. It's all dinners and social events.
wow. Well, I think also with that, there's almost you're creating I think FOMO is the wrong word, but it's like other people are coming.
Like, hey, is there someone I know that's going to be there or someone that I want to know that's going to be there, right? You get that one person that maybe people know about in your space, right? You get a name that people want to meet, that your brand ambassador or whatever you want to call it. That's a huge get that you can then invite people to join. But again, long game.
It is, but they're seeing you presenting, hosting. They're trying to kind of probably curry your favor, in a way. And I think, damn it, I feel like now I'm on the hook for this. Like I just do. I have a feeling that this is, damn it, Chris, you win. Okay.
Yeah, tell Chris. And listen to this, Chris. I was talking to a guy who he used to do this. And what he said is he was able to throw a lot of these dinners at almost no cost because like he could get the venue to be a sponsor or get one of the companies that was going to be there it's not a huge sponsorship. Maybe it's only $1,000 sponsorship. For a lot of companies, that's a drop in the bucket. And so like his portion of it was minimal. Anyway, just going back to it goes to like that personalization piece. But there's just, again, you have to take it to the next step. There's like other things you need to be doing. It's the value. It's the giving value. That's all it is.
Damn. And then as we keep growing and evolving this conversation, we could have this conversation every year and it's a completely different conversation.
I know. And it would be different. It really would be different. I know. In truth, I mean, you couldn't be more spot on, Max, because like, I can't even tell you how much my perspective shifts like at every company I'm at as like, I learn the different markets and like the different buyers, like everybody's so different and the markets are different and they want to be reached differently. And so like, I might have not said this 2 years ago. I might have felt differently 2 years ago.
All right. Believe it or not, Casie, we did it. We're at time. We did it.
Was there anything interesting that I said? I don't know.
I think this is phenomenal. I think this is one of my favorite episodes. I like that we back and forth. Like, I think that, like, listen, we didn't have to even agree on everything 100%. I think that's amazing. I think that's absolutely amazing. We both learned from this. An audience learns from this. This is the whole point.
Well, good. I'm so glad. That was a good conversation. I loved when you were like, I'm going to disagree. I was like, oh boy, where's he going with this?
I think we can be real. I think we've earned that at this point. Here we go. Awesome. All right, Casie, I'll let you go. I'll let you know when this is live, the whole bit. If you need anything, you let me know. And hey, if you find yourself in New York, the New York area, you let me know, okay?
I will. Thank you. And if you find yourself on Nantucket, I guess let me.
Oh my God, I so will. 1,000%. You got it. All right, I'll talk to you soon, Casie.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. You too. Thanks, Max. Bye.
And that's a wrap on Closing Conversations. Huge thanks to Casie Gillette for a masterclass on what actually works in demand gen today, alignment over attribution, specifics over fluff, and community over cold noise. If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who's building go-to-market the right way. For more on building sales teams that actually deliver, visit www.commissionsales.com. I'm Max Notis. We'll see you next time. And until then, let's get closing. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget, you can always catch us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for more episodes of Closing Conversations.